The nervous system. Neuron structure. The neuron is like any other cell, so it's going to have nucleus, Golgi complex, smooth endoplasmic reticulum, lysosomes. Nistal bodies are very specific to the neuron. They are rough endoplasmic reticulum together with ribosomes. Dendrites, they receive the messages from other neurons. The axon, that transfers the stimulus from one neuron to another neuron, transfers the action potential, as you can see right there. The axolemma is the membrane of the axon. The axon here is the trigger zone where the action potential starts. The axon terminals, those are axon terminals from other neurons, right, that they are going to secrete the neurotransmitter. The Schwann cell is the one that produces the myelin sheath in the peripheral nervous system. Remember, in the central nervous system, it's going to be the oligodendrocyte and the myelin sheath that is going to insulate the axon. You also have the neuronum, which is the membrane of the Schwann cell, and the node of Ranvier, which is the gaps in between two Schwann cells. We have the endoneurium, which is the connective tissue that surrounds the axon. The axon terminal, we have a smooth ER, we have the telodendron, mitochondria that's going to produce ATP. We have the synaptic vesicles where you're going to find the neurotransmitter. And as you can see in there, they are showing some synaptic vesicles releasing the neurotransmitter. Spinal meninges, as we know, we have three different meninges: dura mater, pia mater, and arachnoid mater. Remember, arachnoid mater is the membrane that is in the middle, in between the dura mater and the pia mater. Now, the space that we have on top of the dura mater is going to be called the epidural space. The space that you're going to have in between the dura mater and the arachnoid mater, that's going to be called the subdural space. And the space that you're going to have between the arachnoid mater and the pia mater is going to be called the subarachnoid space. That's the area where you're going to have the cerebrospinal fluid. Organization of gray matter and white matter. In the gray matter, we're going to have horns: posterior horn, lateral horn, and obviously on the front, we're going to have the anterior horn. In the middle, you're going to have the gray commissure that is going to communicate both areas of gray matter, one on the right side and the other one on the left side. In the middle of the gray commissure, you're going to have the central canal, which is going to contain, obviously, the cerebrospinal fluid. In the white matter, what we're going to have is columns or funiculus. That's going to be the posterior white column, lateral white column, and in front, you're going to have the anterior white column. The groove that you have in the anterior part of the spinal cord is going to be the anterior median fissure, and the groove behind the central canal is going to be the posterior median sulcus. This is the same information related to the organization of gray matter and white matter, but in this case, you do not have the relationship that the spinal cord has with the vertebrae. But you can still see that you have the same information. Gray matter is going to have the horns, the white matter is going to show the columns, and in the posterior side of the central canal, you're going to have the posterior median sulcus, and in front, you're going to have the anterior median fissure. Spinal nerves, as you know, the spinal nerves are going to arise from the spinal cord. In there, you have that the back side of the spinal nerves are going to be the posterior root. That one is always sensory. In there, you can see the posterior root ganglion, which is where you're going to have the neurons. And the axon of these neurons are the ones that are going to form eventually the spinal nerve. The anterior part, which is going to be the ventral root, is going to carry the motor information. As I always say, the anterior is always motor and the posterior is always sensory. Plexus and nerves. Set of nerves give you a plexus. We have four main plexus. The one in the neck are going to be two of them, cervical plexus and brachial plexus. Below, we're going to have the lumbar plexus in the lumbar area of your vertebral column, and the bottom one is going to be the sacral plexus. Since a plexus is a group of nerves, then these plexuses are going to have branches. Phrenic nerve, for example, is a branch of the cervical plexus. The brachial plexus has 5 branches: axillary nerve, the radial nerve, musculocutaneous nerve, ulnar nerve, and median nerve. The lumbar plexus is going to show you the femoral nerve, and the sacral plexus is going to have the sciatic nerve, tibial nerve, and the common peroneal nerve or fibular nerve. Keep in mind that there are other branches. So, for example, as part of the sacral plexus, you have the pudendal nerve, but that's not being shown in this video. Nerves of the brachial plexus. You see in there the location of these specific names, such as the axillary nerve and the musculocutaneous nerve. And in your forearm, you're going to find the median nerve, radial nerve, and ulnar nerve. The radial nerve and the ulnar nerve are going to be located more or less where the radial bone and the ulnar bone are. The median nerve is going to be found in between the radial nerve and the ulnar nerve. The nerves in the lumbar plexus are going to be for the anterior part of the leg. The nerves in the sacral plexus are going to be in the posterior part of your leg, such as, for example, the pudendal nerve, sciatic nerve, common fibular nerve, tibial nerve, and sural nerve. Remember, lumbar is for the anterior part of the leg, and sacral is for the posterior part of the leg.